Okay guys, this might make you laugh, it might not, I don't know. This is a body of my cheap Chinese water distiller. This is some cheap alcohol. Tramp juice, basically, you know, homeless people's champagne. And I'm going to turn that into alcohol. I'm going to distill it, and it's not for drinking. I received my letter from the HMRC today, so I've got a print hard copy saying that the distillation of alcohol for domestic heating purposes is legal up to certain limits. I'll be working within those limits, and I will be keeping full records. But this is me experimenting with distilling. Here we go. Okay, so what I've done is I've poured all bar a tiny bit into the distiller. As you can see, it's foaming around like crazy. That could be a good thing. It'll probably be descaling it for me. I mean, that crap is so acidic and nasty, you know. To be quite honest, drinking that is a waste. You should always go in a distiller, in my opinion, these days anyway. It's quite bad for me. I had to go when I went to the off license to buy that stuff. I found myself saying, like, it's not for me, it's not for me. Of course it is for me, but it's for a distiller though. Okay, once that's settled down, I'll then put the top back on it, plug it in, and see whether we can get some moonshine. Been looking at the prices of, I mean, this is crazy. I mean, for someone like me who doesn't drink, I've been looking on the internet for prices of proper whiskey moonshine distillers like they have in America. You know, that'll take some serious saving up for. But just trying to tell everybody, no, I don't drink, when I've got a whopping great copper whiskey moonshine distillery set up somewhere. I mean, that would be crazy, but never mind. See how we get on with this. Apparently the first distillation could provide something like 65% ABV, and then the second one you could probably get more out of it. I'm only hoping to get like about half a litre or less. Taking into account that this is a 7.5% tramp crap, okay? There we go, that's the setup. Now if I was doing this to make drinking alcohol, I'll be having to measure off the first few milliliters. I think it'll be the first 50 milliliters or thereabouts, because that'll contain all the methanol. Then after that there'll be all the drinking ethanol, and then there'll be all the stuff you throw away. But I'm not doing this for drinking. I'm not measuring off the first 50 milliliters. I'm collecting it all because I'm using it for burning alcohol, not for drinking alcohol. These things you can get cheap on eBay for, well, I'd say cheap, about £75 mine was, and I was planning on just using it for water. As this is a Chinese one, it's still had the flavour of Chinese chemicals in it, you know what I mean? When those Chinese people, they make stuff in the factory, they don't always use clean equipment, so maybe I should just use this for distilling alcohol for fuel, I don't know. That's one possibility. And it might be worthwhile investing in another one, a stainless steel interior one, British or European made, to be used for making clean water. But either way, you know, I can still make some fuel with this. Now, the journeytoforever.org website said that as far as domestic heating is concerned, you might be better off not distilling alcohol because of the energy expense of going through the distillation process, and just use the energy you're using for the distillation for the purposes of heating your house. I think that depends upon what you're doing it for and how you're doing it. If you're doing it during the summer and you're using wood fuel and you can't use wood fuel inside, then it makes sense. If you're doing it for a store of energy, then it makes sense to use distillation anyway. And also alcohol would be practical depending upon how well it burns and so on and so forth. So there's a reason to use it. That was just my point there. Okay, just to keep the record nice and clear and straight, this is my letter from the HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. It says here, only if your production of biofuel, which is what I'm doing this for biofuel, not for drinking, I don't drink alcohol. Only if your production of biofuel were to reach 2,500 litres annually would you be required to notify HM Revenue and Customs, make entry of your premises, complete and send returns to HMRC and accounts of excise duty. If you have
produced or used less than 2,500 litres of any biofuel or any other fuel substitute or additive within the last 12 months and or expect to produce or use less than 2,500 litres in the next 12 months. You are an exempt producer and do not need to register with us and account for duty. As an exempt producer, you must record and keep the following information: the date of each supply and or own use. So basically today I'm going to have make written records of how much I've distilled. Okay. And when I use it, I've got to have records of how much I'm using. Okay. The amount in standard litres of each supply and or own use. So I've got to measure it in litres basically. You should check the amount produced at the end of each month. If you have produced 2,500 litres or more in the last 12 months or expect to produce 2,500 litres or more in the next 12 months, you must contact us within 30 days to register your premises as described in paragraph 2.5 of our public notice number 179E, Biofuels and Other Fuel Substitutes, which is available on the website www.hmrc.gov.uk. Click on Library in the Quick Links box in the home page, then Publications, Notices, Excise Duties, and finally Oil/Public Notices. That's right, it is legal to distill alcohol at home if you want to use it for a fuel, okay, for heating or cooking.
Don't know whether you can see that or not. We seem to have the first few dribbles of moonshine. Sorry, biofuel. Here we go. Energy production at its best. This is quite soon into the process. Of course, I'm doing this outside, so that means that the coils can cool down more quickly. The temperature outside probably about 8-10 degrees at the very tops, rather than being inside where it's about 15 degrees or 25 degrees. And that makes it, I mean, when I was distilling water, if there was a change in the air temperature, that would affect the quantity of yield from the distiller dramatically. Okay, so it's good I'm doing this outside, and we'll be able to see how well this stuff burns. And that was the goal. Don't know if you can quite see the quantity there, but that's quite good. It's only been going for about an hour or so, and we're very close to the target volume of distillate that I was hoping to get. Total, so that's probably almost all the good stuff. Leave it go for another half an hour. Then we'll turn it off, throw away all the tails. What I mean by tails is stuff which is inside the body of the distiller. And then what we can do is to experiment with what we got. Now, some of it we'll try burning. I don't think it'll burn too well because your first runoff is supposed to be about 65% with a machine of this particular type. Okay, 65% alcohol by volume, which is not very massive. But with a subsequent secondary distillation, we should be able to get it up to the same quality, or almost the same quality as commercially available bioethanol. One thing which is coming through very clear to me is how volatile alcohol really is. Because when I'm distilling water in this device, it takes about 1 hour for the first few drips to come out of it. But this is, after about 1 hour, we've got a fair quantity of stuff, which could be very useful for a bioethanol experiment. Okay. Also, I had a feeling that maybe the action of putting alcohol through this thing will help to clear the pipes of any nasty Chinese factory chemical which might still have been on the coils. Maybe this will be a cleaning exercise as well. And definitely the white cider inside will help to descale the inside of the devices too. So
probably a myriad of benefits going to help me with with the device itself. But that's kind of beautiful. Probably cost me less than 10 pence to produce in terms of energy consumption, but it did cost an awful lot in buying the cheap alcohol to put through it in the first place, by comparison with the cost of, let's say, commercially available bioethanol when bought in large quantities. But for small scale experimentation, it was good. One of these days I'll try and get myself a full 10-gallon moonshine still, then use that for my bioethanol. Maybe one day. With your help, you know. You know where the link is. Remember, none of this is going into drinking. It's all going into saving the planet. What I need to do is to get a wholesale provider of sugar, and a wholesale provider of yeast, and sterilization equipment and brewing equipment, and each and every single day set up 10 gallons worth of alcohol for fermentation. So after 2 weeks that will then be done and ready. Okay? And that can then go into distillation. Every single day I can distill a gallon, and do that throughout the whole of the spring, summer and autumn, and store every single one of those gallons in plastic or steel containers, then use them during the winter in a bioethanol fireplace to keep my place warm and to cook my food. That makes sense to me. Okay, this is the kind of tin I had for my wood gas stove experiments. A ring of holes at the top, rings of holes at the bottom. It's got jammed into this little pots here. But I used this for a fire gel experiment, so I'm now going to use it for a pure liquid ethanol experiment. Wish me luck, I'm going in. Okay, proof positive. The first run won't burn. Plenty of liquid alcohol there, and it's not burning. Gonna have to put it through the distiller again, see whether we can get some more results from it. Here we go. So I put that first run off straight into the distiller, and within just about 5 minutes of me turning the thing on, we're already starting to get stuff coming out. Okay, so that's got to be a higher strength. Seriously, it's got to be a higher strength of alcohol. And I'll be really surprised if that stuff doesn't burn when I set fire to it. Now, but the fact is, it only, it's starting to be produced within 5 minutes, so it's much more volatile, or the strength or quality of the volatiles is much bigger. So, the distillation process is working, basically. One thing, just as a side issue, putting that white lightning or white cider tramper juice through my distiller has seriously cleaned out the inside. So if you want to descale it, sure, you can spend money on descaling crystals, or you could just make yourself some brandy. And that'll probably do it. I give this a few more minutes until we've got about half a cup's worth of stuff left over. Then we'll see whether we can burn that. Now, as far as buying alcohol from an off-license, an efficient way of getting biofuel together, bottom line is no. It isn't financially efficient, it isn't energy efficient, it's no good at all. You really got to have like wholesale supplies of sugar and yeast and brewing equipment to be able to make this stuff on a reasonable scale to be affordable, as well as to have a form of energy which is either free or you need to scavenge for to actually do the distilling itself with the heat source. But it's still fun to watch, still fun to do. It'll be a great hobby until I've got this nailed down to a fine art. Okay, so now I've got some second run in the pot. Pour it out and see if I can burn it. It's that simple. This one's still wet from the stuff which didn't burn before. Okay, so what actually happened? Well, further internet research has demonstrated that there are other stills on the market which can distill to a higher level. This particular pot still is supposed to only go up to about 60%. So although you can get some flaming alcohol from it, the chances of you being able to carry on distilling and redistilling to the point whereby you've got like real pure petrol quality, or gasoline quality ethanol, would be incredibly unlikely. So I'm going to have to basically save up tons of money to be able to get myself a bigger, better still. And there are some on the market which can do amazing things and can distill up to about like 95% or more in some cases. But that'll be for another stage. What I have demonstrated is that with some equipment you can actually do distillation at home. What I've decided is that most people who own that type of still would tend to use it for providing themselves with pure clean water when they're worried about water quality, and also for those who've got more of an alcoholic interest and want to make themselves drinking alcohol. But I don't want to make drinking alcohol because I'm just not into that sort of thing. Sorry. Was the experiment therefore a complete failure? I don't think so. There was still alcohol coming off. You could still use that for possibly preserving or pickling. It will probably make a very good pickling solution. And therefore I'm still not going to discount using that particular still for that kind of purpose. The other thing that it did was to completely clean out the inside of the still itself. The acidity of the cheap, crappy cider, 7.5% alcohol cider, was so strong that it completely descaled the inside of that particular distiller. So that was amazing. So think about that if you ever own one of these things and you want to clean it out and you happen to have some crap around. What my research seems to have suggested is you need to start off with not 7.5% but 14% alcohol, and to use that as your base for distilling, because that's what you need to be able to create the quantity and quality of alcohol you might be after. So I was using the wrong strength alcohol. I was probably using the wrong quality of drink anyway, or of wash anyway, and I was using the wrong quality of still to get to where I wanted to go. I could try making my own still of the right quality, or I could try just saving up and buying one. But the options are out there, and home distilling for fuel is still a viable possibility.